Hello, everyone. Welcome to DREIA Street Talk. I'm Jim Pamplin, co-chair of DREIA, with Ryan Shrouder of Spink, Shrouder, and Carnes, PA. Ryan is the managing attorney there. You can see on your screen the areas of practice they cover and the ways to contact him. Hello, Ryan, and welcome.
Thank you for having me. Good morning, Jim.
So tell me, how's it going at the office? Everybody back? Is the court open for you?
It's going well. The two aspects of it, the real estate it seems like it's coming back strong because we basically had a law immediate stop almost, and with the courts they're not exactly back. So we're doing a lot of things by Zoom. As you know, courts are usually slow as it is. So with this whole situation, we're running at probably 50% of the speed we usually were at.
Okay. Well, Ryan, listen, I know your time's limited, and today I wanted to go back. We did a recent street talk with Joshua Matheson on a property they sold in Margate. Pretty good deal. And I know you were involved in it. And one of the things he said is they bought it the day of the auction. So when I followed up, it turns out they didn't buy it at the auction. And he said they used something called the redemption period to somehow buy the property. Now, first of all, tell us about Florida's redemption period, and then let's go into the mechanics of that particular deal, if you recall.
Okay, absolutely. So there's really two aspects to or two deadlines that come up in a foreclosure sale. Once the judgment's been entered and there's been a sales ordered and the actual sale occurs, the next two dates you have, so to say, is a certificate of sale, which is issued by the clerk of the court, and then certificate of title. And certificate of title would be the winning bidder. Within 10 days, the clerk issues certificate of title. But under Florida law, the owner of the actual property being foreclosed on it has a right of redemption up until the time the certificate of sale is issued, which is kind of like the confirmation of sale. And for anyone out there who wants to look at the statute, it's section 45.0315. And basically, under the law, before the clerk can certify that sale, the defendants or owners of the property have the right to go get a updated payoff calculation from the clerk of what's owed and pay it off and redeem, basically reverse or the sale, or essentially you're paying off the judgment.
So even if the investor or whoever bid at the auction goes on, pays the entire amount within 24 hours prescribed by law, before the CT is issued, then the owner can basically redeem it.
It's actually before the certificate of sales issue, which is there's a lot of misconception, because the first step is certificate of sale, certification of the sale, and then you have the certificate of title issued within that 10 days. So there's no time frame on the certificate of sale per statute, but it is done before the second part, certificate of title, which must be done within 10 days. So it depends on each circuit, but typically with the electronic aspect of everything, it could be 48 hours after the sale or after the winning bid, that the certificate of sale is issued. So you don't exactly have that 10 days.
Okay, that's a very important part, because people say that all the time, oh, you got 10 days. You really don't. It's just their certificate of sale. Yeah. So that brings up something. A lot of people wonder why hard money lenders won't loan to them to buy at auction. And this is the reason, because you might not get title, and there's no title issued for a while.
Absolutely. So let me back up one second, because there's such a big misconception. I just want to read like the first sentence of the statute. It says, right of redemption at any time before the later of the filing of a certificate of sale by the clerk of the court, or the time specified in the judgment, order, or decree of foreclosure, the mortgagor or the holder of any subordinate interest may cure the mortgagor's indebtedness and prevent a foreclosure sale by paying the amounts of money specified in the judgment, etc. So two aspects to that. One, it is the actual mortgagor or the holder of any subordinate interest, which is kind of key there, because a lot of times you'll have people who own a subordinate interest, and they would, under the statute, be allowed to exercise that right. And so that's the actual the language of the statute.
So the homeowner or whoever owned the property, or like say a second mortgage holder or a lien holder could actually go in during that period?
They can, and I don't and so the question as to why do sometimes hard money lenders not lend in these type of situations? It's because you have to. The deadlines are hard once they occur, and it's always you're dealing with the clerk of the court, so it could be difficult, and so it's really everything is last minute, and that's why you have people hesitant to have mainstream programs out there that do this. But if you're able to understand this process and tackle it, there's a lot of money to be made. For
Okay.
instance, you're going to basically search title before you decide to go and spend the money and redeem it, and so that's one of the things you'll have to do before you pull the trigger and pay it off.
Well, so that brings up a whole different meeting, and we'll get to that. I appreciate that. So let's talk about Joshua and Jeremy Matheson's deal in specific. It was very interesting, and they were very nice to share with us what happened. And you and your firm were integral in making it happen. As is typical when investors deal with potential sellers, they ignore you. They say something's going to happen, and lo and behold, these people called up the day of the auction. And as I understand, the property did go to auction. What happened after that?
The property sold at auction. So as soon as they decided they were going to enter into, or they were going to have a viable opportunity to purchase this property, they called us and asked us to run title, and we had to do essentially a pencil search, which isn't, as everyone knows, isn't insurance, but it's as most accurate we can try to provide you. They then once they had the homeowners agreed to the price, they then had to go down to the courthouse and get a payoff from the clerk of the court. And this is simple in concept, but difficult in reality, because when you go down to the clerk's office, you have to talk to 3-4 people before you find someone there who knows what they have to do, how they have to calculate it. You can't get a payoff from the lender. You actually need the clerk to calculate a payoff on the judgment amount. And once you've got that number calculated, you have to redeem right then and there with a cashier's check, essentially. And they don't take extra money it has to be exact. So they're not going to take an extra penny. They're not going to take, a penny less. So you have to make it work, you got to go down there with the homeowner. And that's what Josh and Jeremy did. They went down there, they got the payoff, they spoke to the person they had to. As soon as they got the payoff, their hard money lender had already had the money wired to us. So what we did for them is they called us from the courthouse. We drove over, got a cashier's check using the lender's money. And then they came, picked up the cashier's check, went down to the courthouse, redeemed. And that's where we went.
So, but during this time, they had actually executed a sales contract with the homeowner. Is that correct?
They had an executed sales contract, and to give them an extra layer of protection, we had the closing documents executed from the sellers to Josh and Jeremy, held in escrow, kind of contingent upon all those moving pieces coming together.
All right. So by the end of the day, I assume it's the same day, they had the contract done and they had their financing in place. And not every lender is going to do this, but they have a lender that will do it. And then the sale was basically consummated once you gave them the cashier's check. Is that correct?
Absolutely. And what we did to make sure we could try to assure some of the other things that aren't as immediate, as a city lien search, those type of things, is we held the they had an agreement with the seller to hold the remaining excess proceeds that they were going to walk with. The seller was going to walk with a little bit until those other documents and searches came through. So it was funded almost like you would do a construction loan, like a draw. A portion of the loan was funded to redeem. The remaining stuff came through. Title insurance was issued. We consummated the closing, and they stood to make a pretty hefty profit.
Right, but the homeowners did. Let's stress this: the homeowners did walk away with some money once that period was over.
They did. The homeowners walked away with money, and there was there's always reasons why people end up in the situation they're in.
Right.
This isn't a situation where you could do it if the homeowners don't have clear title. These particular people had clear title, and they kind of buried their head like a lot of people do.
Right.
like anyone whose property goes to auction and there's a surplus. So that worked out in their favor.
Let's talk for a moment about the risks of doing this without a title search. I mean, I know you're going to say no one should ever do this without a title search. So, what are the risks involved here if someone wants to try to do this?
The biggest risk is that you're buying a inferior position. So when there's foreclosure sales, this could be a second mortgage or a third mortgage or a fourth mortgage that that's foreclosing. So you have to be able to search and read title to be able to know you're buying first position. One of the most difficult things I've ever had to deal with was someone who read about foreclosure sales, went on, bought the HOA's position, spent $30,000 or $40,000 of their, I imagine it was their life savings, came into my office, and I had to tell them that basically they're just riding it out till the first mortgage foreclosure finishes up. So
Okay.
you definitely want to know which position you're buying.
All right. We always tell people that the foreclosure auction is a big boys game, but this is sort of a way. This is sort of a way, if you have any familiarity with the property, to kind of get in even at the last minute, and that's really important as an extra tool for investors, don't you think?
It is. It is. I mean, people sometimes are hesitant to get into foreclosure auctions because they believe that there's no room, and it's a saturated industry. But if you have any foreclosure that ever ends up or results in a surplus, then there was an opportunity there.
Okay.
And as we know, all the time we see surpluses.
All right, Ryan. Well, listen, you've mentioned several things here we should probably sort of expand on, and now is not the time. Would you be interested in coming back and having a meeting with us at DREIA on one of our evening meetings?
Absolutely. If that's something that the members show some interest in, we'd be happy to talk about any of the topics and try to make them as palatable and non-boring as we can.